Good afternoon, kings and queens. This is Seth Moore coming to you once again on Amazon.com, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Apple Music, Podbean, and many more. Hope you're having a good day. We're coming to you today because we're going to be talking about some things that we absolutely know that are relevant and are crucial for our everyday living. And so we ask that you will stay with us and that you will continue to come to our podcast and support, like, and subscribe. So we hope that you're having a good day, and we want to bring some things to you very briefly, and we're going to be talking about some spiritual things. And I know this will probably go over most of y'all's heads, but however, I'm going to give it to you, and you can digest it, and you can, just ponder on it, and go from there. And obviously, what's good for you, you accept, and you'll digest, and what's not, of course, you know what to do. So we're going to be talking about some monotonic things, and some things I had said on the last podcast that was done, in regards to religion, spirituality, and so forth. And I talked about coming out of Babylon, which I meant. I don't want to digress to the point where I sound as if though I'm being contradictory, because I'm not. I don't want to do that. I talked about how, we say one thing and then we do another. And it would pull the shade and let you know that there's some things that are not right, and that what you're actually involved in is very contradictory to who you are. Not so much that you do it because you believe that's probably the best way for you. Okay, you believe that that's the best way for you, and so that's why you do it. And I had mentioned things like Sunday, I mentioned Sabbath. When these things are actually said, it's more of honing in on your spirituality more than it is you doing it, because it's within you to do in the first place. Okay, if you understand what I mean. So consciously, you may be doing something. Oh, let me put it this way. Unconsciously, you may be doing something, but your conscious reaction may be totally different. You follow what I mean? So when I talk about Sabbath, or if I say something like Sabbath, which I've said, inwardly, everything is done. If you're really a spiritual person, entity, everything is done from an inward vibrational frequency. Okay? That's really where it's being done at. Okay? So even though you may not be keeping a certain thing, in which you don't have to outwardly. Now, I know that may sound strange, because they're man-made. And when these things were mentioned in terms of, whatever spiritual fierce you may be in, whether it may be, you going to a church, which you know I'm totally not with, because it is set up to keep you stagnated. Because have you ever thought about this? If you truly ask yourself, and if you're being honest with yourself, do you find real growth? Do you find real growth in what you're doing? Spiritually, I'm talking about spiritually. See, because spiritually, you're ever evolving. You understand what I'm saying? There's a difference. You're ever evolving. Religiously, you're kind of going through a routine, if you know what I mean. You know, you go to church every Sunday, you go to a Bible study, you go to a conference, you go to a church event. It's the same thing over and over and over. You follow me? And so, do you really find yourself evolving spiritually? Do you find yourself going from one spiritual phase to another? If you're honest with yourself. And if you're honest with yourself, you'll probably say, I really don't. I really don't. So when it was mentioned to say, come out of Babylon, coming out of Babylon is really coming out of a religious, toxic, worldly environment or fierce where you don't belong in the first place. And so when it's saying keep Shabbat or whatever, it's basically saying keep your high spiritual value. Keep your original high spiritual value wherein is your real place of spiritual evolving. Okay? Because that's really where you belong. Now, as we see the universe speeding up, because that's exactly what is happening, as we see the universe speeding up rapidly, and if you notice, a year is not a year anymore. A year may be 6 months. Spiritually, if you're evolving and you know what I'm actually saying, things are spinning so fast. And why is that happening? It's happening because the universe is shifting, and the imbalance that it's undergone for the last couple of thousand years is there's a realignment that is actually happening. And the kings and queens of the other worlds and those who are presently here are shifting it through Kundalini activation. And so I talked about some of these things a long time ago, years ago. But I wasn't at the time. I know that I did 3 years ago when I first started doing podcasts. I began to talk about the Kundalini chakras and the activation of higher self is actually taking place. Now, this is what I want to say, amongst other things, is that the fears in the world that we live in today, unfortunately for a lot of our people, everybody's on this Babylonian secular world inclusion of get money. And what I want to say is this, that is very, very important. My success it doesn't look like your success. And why is that? My success is not predicated on money. And I know a lot of you may say, well, In this world in this world, you're making exchange. So in other words, if I give you this paper fiat currency, when I go into a store, you give me something with in exchange. That's the way the system works. That's the way it's set up. I understand all that. But we're evolving to a place now where you're not going to be bartering with fiat currency. And we'll use it until its expiration date. Don't get me wrong. I understand all that. Believe me, I do. More than you probably think I do. Probably more than you do. And I don't say that as a knock. But what I am saying is we're in a time now where if you're not spiritually vibrating, if you're not spiritually in tune with the way the universe is shifting and so forth, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss it because you're being led by other entities. You're being led by other voices. You're being led by people who saying that God is going to do this, what they say in the church, these so-called preachers who are leading you. And they have you geared towards, and this is why I mentioned in the podcast that I did a week or so ago when I was mentioning about the false balance is an abomination, and a just weight is his delight. And I talked about it morally in church layman terms so that you can understand it or where I was coming from. But on a spiritual elevation and spheres where the context actually belongs, what I was saying was spiritually, if you're not connected in a righteous spheres of navigating through this planet and understanding what's happening in our global world system, you are going to be lost in the sauce, because everything now, and has been, it hasn't just started, has been for years, been evolving in a spiritual spheres of continuity, elevation, of magnetism, of magnetism and magnets and gravitating you towards that spiritual place, who you really are and where you belong. But because these artificial elements that are in the universe, and they have a magnetic hold on you physically, and they have a magnetic hold on you mentally and emotionally and socially, you haven't been able to let go. And it's been that's given you your own safe haven to make you believe that you're safe, when in fact you are wandering aimlessly, because spiritually you don't know the direction to go in. And because of that, you've allowed these elements to pull you every which way. I some years ago, this was many years ago, I had mentioned to someone, I'm not going to call the name, But I mentioned to someone some years ago, I said, I've been doing some research on this monotonic gold and, trying to make the difference between monotonic gold and monotonic silver. And I contacted this lady who was in New Jersey, and I had mentioned to this person, I said, I started talking about this water. And I said, this water is one of probably at the time the greatest waters that had came out, and it was a discovery for me. And I mentioned it to him. I mentioned it to this person, and they actually got into an argument with me. And see when you start to, and the thing about it is when you start to get into all this ego stuff, it lets you know that you're way off spiritually. I mentioned this thing to this individual, and they try to flip it on me and said, "Oh man, I was the one that told you about it." And I'm looking at this person and I'm saying, "Really, really?" And they got irate and proceeded to go into this really nasty argument. And I just said, okay, I let it go. When I got down to this place where I contacted this lady and I said, this is the person that has this monotonic gold. And we went and got this monotonic gold. I believe that this lady, she felt my energy. See, because this is what this is all about. Getting this to heighten your energy and to build your inner immune system and to reach this higher plateau of spirituality. This lady actually gave me a bottle of it without charging me. She said, "You take this." I bought one bottle, excuse me, and the other one she said, "Here, you take this." And so it proved that I was in the right element, because I had actually felt so violated by this person trying to make it seem as though they were the person who actually introduced me when it was the other way around. But aside from that, these monotonic elements that I want to talk about, and how that it's good for heightening your spiritual awareness, and how it's good for just bringing you into self-consciousness and unconscious elements and so forth. Because whether you know it or not, most of what is done unconsciously. It's happening without you even knowing it, because you've already given thought to it. You follow me? You've given thought to it long ago. You've given thought to it. And so when you begin to see manifestations of it, it's because you've already subscribed mental allocation to it. And so then you're seeing the manifestation from it. Okay, so I want to just read some of this to you real quick. And we're going to come back. Gold has long been sought after in the alchemical sciences, and turning lead into gold was one of the major goals of alchemists throughout history. We know more about the ancient scientists and their uses of monotonic, and their associations of gold with status and prestige might hint at something more, but it's hard to say they knew the real story behind what gold can achieve in the body. There are two major types of gold, reduced to its molecular state, colloidal gold and monotonic gold. While they sound the same, these two types of gold are reduced to their elemental states in different ways, and thus they have different impacts on your health and spiritual well-being. In fact, maybe some of you have invested in gold. I have. And so there is a move now towards a gold standard for fiat currency. But we're not talking about monetary. We're talking monotonic gold is something that we're talking about that you ingest. You put in your system. Because I've done it already. And it's not easy to get. You can get it, but you got to make sure that you're getting the right, you know what I'm saying, the right elements. Because, a lot of people peddle off stuff that's not real, and you got to make sure that you have a reliable, credible person who actually has the monotonic gold, and they, they're selling it right, and there's ways, of course, where you can find that out. Okay? But I'm saying this because we're moving, and have been, more to a spiritual place like never before, and it behooves you to be at a spiritual place, and I want to say this. Don't allow your ego, don't allow your insensitivity, don't allow your hatred or your envy or wherever it is you may be imbalanced to deprive you of reaching that place. Because a lot of times, you know what happens? A lot of us, because of our own idiosyncrasies and so forth, and things that we have in our life, that we'll block from receiving something that's good for us. And this can be detrimental to you spiritually. And you don't want to allow that to happen, because you want to be ever evolving and reaching higher plateaus spiritually. And I only say this to you because I want you to achieve. That's why I do what I do. I want you to achieve, because we are those entities in the universe that keep the universe intact. It's us, the melanated people. It's us. It's nobody else but us. But what's happening is, and what we've allowed to happen, is other people to use our sciences against us. They've given you a false doctrine and a false science, and they've taken yours and using yours against you, just like they've done everything else. It's been happening for thousands of years. So it's high time for us to get back to who we really are. To who we really are. And how do we do that? We do that by, number one, sharing our energies with one another. Sharing our energies in the right manner. Loving your brother, loving your sister, finding what's working and what's not working. Now, and like I said, a few moments ago, religion is not for us. We've been delving in religion since birth, and a lot of us come up into it. We was raised in it, but that's not who we are. We're spiritual beings. We're spiritual beings. That's what we have to get back to, y'all. We're spiritual entities. And so a lot of things have been misinterpreted. The book has been misused and misinterpreted, and it's turned into a religious circus. They don't want you to know this. A lot of these people are agents for the system. They want to keep you there. Why? Because it benefits them. It benefits them. It benefits them more than it benefits you. And they keep you in an emotional frenzy, keeping you caught up in this emotional fears that God is going to, this invisible God is going to come and give you the dream of your life. It's manipulation. And they do it good. They're good at it. So because you don't realize that the creation is within inside of you. The spiritual creation is within inside of you for you to make happen what you need to happen, not only for you, but for those in the universe around you. Colonial gold is created when gold is reduced to their molecular structure in the form of nanoparticles. These are then suspended in a fluid, usually water, and are consumed this way. It's often thought of as a supplement to help with joint issues, but a lot of people ascribe more power to this gold supplement. The problem is colonial gold or collado gold is not reduced far enough, and the nanoparticles are still much too large to be utilized at your own body's cellular level. Okay? To obtain different types of benefits, the molecular structure of gold has to be broken down even further, but the process for making collodial gold can't do this. The only way this can be achieved is with the processes that make monotonic gold. Through finely tuned alchemical science, gold can be reduced even beyond the nanoparticles particulate state. Okay, let me say this before I end this. Your molecular system has to be broken down by things that you put in it. Okay? To have a universal balance of a higher connectivity, frequency, vibrational connectivity. How does that happen? Number one, it happens by what you eat. A lot of us, our main issue is our diet. You look at anybody, and our main issue is our diet and why we feel the way that we do, and why we lose so many people, because a lot of stresses come into your life through your diet. If you're eating a lot of sugar, if you're eating a lot of, carbs, you're not balancing what you intake. You're not being cognizant of the intake that you put in your system, your body. And even, didn't the scripture say that your body is a temple? So we lose a lot of people, unfortunately, through a bad diet. And it translates into the way we think, the way we move about every day, how we interact, and so forth. And then so people see me and they say, oh man, you look good, or you look this, or you look that. Why? It's because of what I put in my body. I'm very cognizant in a sense about my intake. Do you read what you pick up in the store? Do you read what's in it? When you buy a package of food, do you read what's in it? How you prepare it? Are you saying, nah, this got stuff in it I can't even pronounce. I'm not buying this. You know what I'm saying? Or are you feeding your children sugar, too much sugar? Are you buying a lot of processed foods? Are you eating out a lot at these places where food tastes good, but it has no nutritional value. Are you going to Popeyes, Wendy's, McDonald's? You need to get away from that stuff. It's killing you. Those food stuffs are not good for you or your children. Get your family away from those poisons, please. And begin to cook at home. Make steamed vegetables. Leave a lot of the pork alone. Even sometimes get away. I know, how they staple us, the African people, we're chicken eaters. Even sometimes get away from the chicken. If you buy fish, try to buy your fish from a market rather than a store. Go to a place where you can get fish fresh. Ask the person behind the counter, when did that come in? How long has that fish been there? You look at the fish. If a fish has sunken eyes, fresh fish, the fish is not good. When you buy fresh fish, you need to press on the skin when you get it home, or have them press on the skin. If the skin comes back up, that tells you the fish is fresh. If it leaves an indention in the fish when it's pressed on, it lets you know the fish is not fresh. There are ways you can do this. Okay? I know this stuff because I've worked with food for a long time. And of course, these are some of the ways in which you can tell if you're eating fresh food. There's not a magic bullet, but you want to be as safe as you can. Get away from the GMOs. With that genetically modified foods, don't buy that. If you see that in the store, if it has no GMOs on the package, okay, more than likely it's safe that you can buy it. If it has GMO on it, so it's not genetically modified. When you get your vegetables and your fruit, make sure you wash it off. What I usually do, excuse me, is they have this vegetable cleanser at Whole Foods or one of the other stores. Put it in the sink with water. Put some of that stuff in the sink, the vegetable cleanser. Cleanse your fruits and your vegetables from any pesticides and anything that may be on it. Pray over your food, of course. But I would leave the fast foods alone. I really eat out. Why? Because I can make my own food. I'm a great cook. I don't say that to brag, but I can make my own food. I use fresh herbs in my food. Any seasonings that I buy, I try to get them from purveyors that make fresh things in their home. There are people who are making fresh herbs and spices in their home, and you find them in places like Marshall's or this is the best kept secret, because a lot of these ingredients are fresh. They're made in people's house. They have businesses where they ship them all around the country. And a lot of you don't even buy those things. You can go there and a lot of times they're cheaper than what you buy in the store with that McCormick's and all that stuff that got chemicals in it, and all those spices that have chemicals in it. You can go right in Marshall's or any other store, and you go to the section in the back. You'll find all these specialty items: olive oil, spices, jams, fig spreads, all this stuff. And some of it you have to read, because I went in the store and I had bought some fig, and it was delicious. I mean, it was actually absolutely natural, organic. And then I went in the next time and I arbitrarily picked it up. I thought I had the right one, and I kind of find out when I got home, this one had corn syrup in it, but I didn't use it. I may have used it once. Then I just kind of left it in. I don't use it anymore, because corn syrup, as you already know, is a substitute for natural sugar. So you want to buy stuff with natural sugar in it, because fruit has natural sugar in it. Okay? So I just want to kind of give you a few things that you can work with. And I'm going to be coming back. We're going to come back probably and do another one later on this afternoon. And so we can kind of not conclude, but kind of pick up on where we left off. So stay with us, and we're going to be back. We ask that you support. Listen, if just give a like, that's good enough. You know what I'm saying? It will be greatly appreciated if you do that. Okay, and we're going to continue to bring you information that is really critical for everyday living and survival. Okay, so until next time, stay with us and support, and we'll see you later on. Remember to visit us on Patreon, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Apple Music, and of course, Anchor by Spotify. This is Seth Moore. We'll see you soon. Okay, bye-bye.